There's a lot of stress going on right now. It feels like more and more the usual day-to-day issues we are familiar with are stressful. What's going on? Well, there's much we have no control over. World conflicts, social unrest, strikes, you name it. We are in a really bizarre space, I think. One of the few choices I have when I reflect on the situation is being clearer about what I have control over and what I don't. What options are immediately available to me? I think of it as a checklist, things I can do to gear up and be ready for whatever comes next. Now listen, you may find this helpful too. Actors' survival gear. This is Casting Actors Cast, the podcast for actors.
It's time for another episode of Casting Actors Cast, insights for actors from a casting director. Here he is, your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeffrey Dreisbach with the McCorkle Group in New York. How are you? So glad that you're joining us today on this very special edition of Casting Actors Cast. As I mentioned in our previous podcast, we're well over 100,000 downloads of the podcast. It is so cool that you are still hanging in there and weekly checking out Casting Actors Cast. We bring out our podcast once a week. There are anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes or so, and it really has been very useful for a lot of actors based on the wonderful notes and reviews and comments that I've been given while doing these podcasts. Say, listen, if you haven't checked out the website, please do so, castingactorscast, all one word.com. There you're going to find more information about the shows. You're going to find a section called Jeff's Jots, which are corresponding show notes to each of the episodes. Also, there's a form right there on the landing page that says dive into the talent pool. If you do that, it's going to open up a screen that gives you some freebies. One is a book called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. Additionally, there's a video called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. And I'm going to tell you in this free 20-minute video. So checking out the website is just one way of showing your support. The other way is really please just leaving a like, a share, perhaps a review on iTunes especially. If you've gotten anything out of these podcasts, it would mean the world to me. I don't ask for much. I'm just a humble casting director looking to share information about this business so that you can feel more comfortable and confident. And so therefore, if you've gotten anything out of these podcasts, please consider leaving a like, a share, whatever you can do to help promote the cause being continuing to do these podcasts. All right, and a special shout out to my good friends at Actors Connection. If you haven't checked out Actors Connection, I encourage you to do so. actorsconnection.com/New York. All kinds of interesting classes happening online, and you can do it wherever you are. So thank you for that. And again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the very kind words. People have been sending me all kinds of really cool thank yous, and one that comes to mind is somebody who was driving all the way from Chicago to New York and listened to every podcast on the entire journey and mentioned that by the time they got to New York, they were like ready. Ready for what? I'm not sure, but let's just say ready. So that's kind of, that's very gratifying, I have to say. Hey, let's jump into the subject at hand, shall we? Survival strategies, survival gear. You know, when you go out into the wilderness and you're confronted by the great unknown, it's important that you have the tools to make you feel like you are ready and you can handle whatever is thrown at you. And that's exactly what we're talking about. A list of things that you can carry with you and do on a regular basis, on a semi-regular basis, as often as you need. So that when we're dealing with the actor strike and when we're dealing with, whatever it is we're dealing with, whether it's bad relationships or whether it's frustration over the careers choices that have happened or haven't happened, or whatever you're putting yourself through, here are some survival gear strategies for you to consider. Number one, and of course, these are all sort of bullet pointed, so I'm going to give you the bullet points and then we're going to have a little chat about each one, but I won't take up too much of your time today. But listen, take inventory of where you are now. There is nothing better than taking stock of where you are. Why? Because it helps you feel very present. When you say to yourself, all right, I've done this, I've completed my training, I've had these auditions, I've acted in these roles, I've had this many opportunities given me, I've had interviews with casting directors and agents and managers, I've taken classes. Once you start taking an inventory of all of the things you've done towards your career, you're going to feel so much better. You're not going to necessarily feel that sense of frustration that you really haven't accomplished as much as you wanted to. Believe me, I can tell you this. No one has accomplished as much as they wanted to. It's a universal truth. No one has said, okay, I am completely satisfied with everything that I've done. There is no more. That doesn't exist. So take inventory of where you are now. Some people would say take stock in where you are now. It's the same thing. All right, moving on from there. Next, get rest. Stress does all kinds of things to our bodies. One of the things that we can do to overcome some stress is getting adequate sleep. It's true. Getting a good 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night is just an amazing habit that you will never regret. You rejuvenate. Your brain sort of gets realigned. Your physical self just gets rejuvenated. How else can I say it? You've heard it before. And I'm not trying to, shake my finger and go, you have to get more sleep. But you know what? We sometimes decide that the solution to some of the day-to-day stress we put ourselves through is to stay up and occupy our time with other things like television or social media or whatever, or we just can't get to sleep. You know what? Structure your day and include a good, solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I promise you it makes a difference. Moving on from there, let's decide to make a plan. Let's write it down. Let's just simply make a list of those things that we want to accomplish. Let's just simply make a plan. What you are looking forward to doing. What is the next best right thing for you? And then simply write it down. And then you know what? Stick to that plan. I've told this story before early on. I don't think I've told it in quite a while, but when I first came to New York as an actor, I decided, and this was very hard for me, but I decided that I had to stick to the decision that I made for myself. And my decision was I was going to do 3 things a day for my career. That's it. 3 things a day for my career. And if I did those 3 things a day for my career, it was a good day. Now, I'm not just talking about, calling my agent. Check. That wasn't one of the things. But I'm talking about 3 things that I could accomplish every single day. And you know what? Sometimes it was really, really hard. Other times it was great because not only did 3 things happen, but I was able to do 5 things or 6 things. But I knew that I had to accomplish 3 things a day. For example, a class. Well, that's a great checklist. Reading a film script or a new play. Boy, that's something to accomplish. Working out, taking care of myself physically. That's part of my job. So check. When you can do 3 things a day, that's you sticking to the plan. Next step. Share your plan with a peer. Or you could share your plan with a career person, somebody who you empathize with in terms of their journey as an actor, but somebody who you can share it with and make sure that the plan you've got in place is something that resonates well with the person that you're talking to. Okay, moving on from there. Have a wish list of career goals for short and long-term consideration. Now, I tell you, Pat, she just absolutely doesn't like the idea of having short-term goals and long-term goals, because the argument is that if you set those short-term or long-term goals and something else comes into the plan, what do you do with your goals? Suddenly, what, are you going to feel like a failure because it took a sudden right turn that was unexpected? Well, the answer is no. But if you do have some career goals in mind, write them down. They can be things that are going to happen by the end of this year. These can be things that happen within 5 years, however you want to structure it. Having a wish list of career goals is really a great way to manifest. And I know I'm not trying to do this woo-woo, manifestation thing, but you know what? There's something to it, I have to say. Just planting the seed really helps focus your energy. And those people who believe in this kind of thinking, it really connects to the vibration that is out there. And so you can realize a lot of those short-term or long-term goals just by raising the consciousness of wanting them and having them. All right, let's move on from there. Take on a new hobby or project. Take on a new hobby or a project. Now, listen, it doesn't have to feel like it's a creative thing that you're doing. It doesn't. It can be anything like, I'm going to learn how to crochet. I'm going to learn or take a painting class. I'm going to just simply do something that I've wanted to do that I haven't had an opportunity recently to do. Anything, in my opinion, is forward movement. It keeps you occupied, but it also provides the kind of stimulus that keeps you from being, here's a good word, complacent, from moving forward. So take on that hobby, take on that class, connect with somebody, and do something that's just kind of interesting, kind of fun. I have to say on a personal note that I've really enjoyed working on this log cabin that's on a lake. And I've been working on it for about a year now. And so many, many weekends, and even when I can swing it on some weekdays, I go out there, I swing the hammer, I put up drywall, I do the painting, I do as much as I can. And you know what? I just love the fact that it takes me away from my day-to-day. It puts me in another place. And at the end of the day, I can put my pillow on my head. I can put my head on my pillow. Okay. Oh boy. I need a rest. Anyway, when I can put my head on my pillow at night, I feel really gratified that I was able to accomplish something that I probably wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So let's move on from there. It's important that you also review your materials, your picture, your resume, your socials. Are you doing social media? How far are you along in that journey? How about your website? Could your website use some freshening up? Each of those tools for an actor might be due for, speaking of working on a house, might be due for renovation. So consider what's going on with those areas, all of those actor tools that you know, and do they need to be renovated on some level, freshened up, changed? Not just changed for change's sake, but really, you're a different person today than you were yesterday. So why not consider staying with the changes that you are experiencing by letting them be reflected in your material? Here's another one. Take time away from career reflection. Too many times, I think we spend so much time in our own head about what we're not accomplishing, about what we wish we had, about the classes that we shoulda, woulda, coulda taken. All of that is wasted energy. And so therefore, if you agree with me, and I hope that you do because I know that this is completely true for me, it's really okay to take time away from any career reflection whatsoever. Just pulling yourself out of that stressful, negative environment, especially during a time like this, can be so healthy. Give yourself permission to take a bubble bath, literally or proverbially. It's a good idea, something to consider. It's also something to consider to write your play. Write a one-person show. Write a TV pilot. Have fun with something like writing a script for yourself. Why not? This is also a great way to have a creative outlet when you can write a story. I always think, and I'm giving advice, right? So forgive me if this is advice that you're tired of hearing. And sometimes I'm giving advice that I was not even able to do myself. So I get it. But honestly, I think every actor needs to have a one-person show. It could be a historical figure. It could be something about your own upbringing, your own family. All of those are really fair game for you to develop. Just start easy, start slow, and come up with some concepts, some ideas to tell your own story the way that you want to tell it. It's creative, it's fun, and it's an amazing use of time. Here's another suggestion. I want you to consider taking breaks from technology and broadcast news. You know, there's something to be said about putting that cell phone down. We can get so lost in our Instagram and TikToks. We can get so lost in just scrolling our screens. And then we can also get into the habit of watching news broadcasts about the same stories over and over and over again. And we're exhausting ourselves, and sometimes we're not even aware that we're doing it. So please instill some breakage, some breaks in your day-to-day technology use, and be careful about how you consume the news of the day. I promise you it'll make a strong positive impact when you can take those kinds of breaks as well. This is something I've learned, and I wish I could remember to do this more often, but I always think actors should have a gratitude list. Taking stock of what you have right now. Not what you don't have, not what you wish you had, but where are you right now? There's something to be said about getting in touch with your own gratitude that can not, it's not there to make you feel like superficially happy. That's not the point. I really mean it. It's really about just assessing all of the good work that you've done. So you should be proud of the work that you've done and the difference that you make. And that can be accomplished with a gratitude list. Here's another suggestion. Invest time in career alternative fantasies. Now, I'm not talking about, what ifs. But on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I'm talking about, was there ever something else that you wish you might have thought of maybe you should try? Maybe you thought of, I'm wondering, could I have been a pilot? Could I have been a deep sea fisher person? Could I have, in other words, let your mind go. Fantasize about maybe something in your life that you wish you would have continued, not with regret, rather, but something about, gosh, you know what? Being in professional sports, as hard as it is, I think that would be such great fun. Now, so when you do that, by the way, this is not about regret, like I said. This is much more about taking the time that you normally use to stress out about stuff and play the game what if. What if this happened in my life? What if I could decide to go into teaching? Or what if I didn't have to work at all and I could maybe be a pool person at a resort in Mexico? Whatever it might be, enjoy the fantasy. Enjoy that rich, interesting, creative fantasy world that actors are so good at creating. It's refreshing. You can take a little vacation in your own head. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on from there. How about take a class that you've been putting off? Yeah, I know it costs money. I get it. There are some really cool free alternatives if you just spend a little time looking, but there's also some really excellent things that can take you away and yet still contribute to you as an actor. My last podcast was on doing improvisation and how valuable that was for the actor in terms of making discoveries. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing that is really so rewarding and really does give you that satisfying feeling in the pit of your stomach. So take a class that you've been putting off. All right, here's something that I just find so incredibly helpful. Take a walk. I know, sounds kind of weird, right? But I tell you what, I just think it is so valuable. And you don't have to think of it as exercise. In fact, it's probably more healthy that you don't think of it as your exercise. But just getting out into the outside world, breathing some fresh air. This is fall right now and the leaves are turning. It's so amazing. Take a walk in Central Park. Take a walk down the street to the local malt shop. Do they still have malt shops? Maybe where you are, they still do. Let me know. But just simply walking and letting your mind wander. You don't have to wear the earbuds. You don't have to listen to the current top 40. Just enjoy the walk, the sounds of nature, getting yourself out there. I can't think of a more immediate, healthy way for you to feel revitalized. So take a walk. Moving on from there, I think it's important that you have a connected someone in your life that you can share your fears with. Sharing your fears with someone you trust is, again, a very cathartic and healthy choice. Now, I know you might not feel that there's somebody in your world that you can really trust with your secrets or your deepest fears. But it's a really good idea to start looking. It's a really good idea to try to make a connection with someone that you trust to the point where you can say, I just want to sit and I want to chat with you about what's going on with me for 15 minutes. You can structure it like that. And then maybe they can do the same. They can share their fears for you. If you have a friend like that, you've got something extremely valuable for you. So I suggest you think about that. Plant that seed. Watch what happens. Remember to give time. That's another thing. We are so impatient, aren't we? We want things to have happened yesterday. We want that check to be in the mail yesterday, not a week from today. We want all of the good things that we feel should be coming to us to happen right away. And you know what? It just doesn't. Everything seems to happen in its own time. So I love that phrase, give time. I suggest you adopt that phrase as well. It's never immediate, and anything worthwhile is worth investing some time in. So give time. Moving on from there, this is especially useful in this crazy-ass time we're in. There's just so much going on that we can be very overwhelmed in a very short period of time. But I'm making this suggestion in a loving and gentle way. Please don't consider making huge changes in your life right now. This is not the time to change your relationship. This is not the time to decide that you're going to move to another part of the country. This is not the time to say you're going to change your financial situation and you're going to fill in the blank, whatever. This is not the time right now to incorporate any major changes in your life. Stick to the plan. Decide not to be dramatic with those situations that we find ourselves in, that you're going to simply be careful and calm, pragmatic with the things that you're confronted with right now. I promise you that's the healthiest way to approach what we're dealing with. And I consider this to be such useful information, and I do this all the time. In other words, I really try to think about, especially if there's a change taking place, especially if something I have to consider, giving time, and then not making those incredible shifts in my life have been really rewarding. It evolves. It comes in a natural way. That's when those life changes have more meaning and can be really healthy for you. Finally, connect with other actors. Are you getting together with actors on a weekly or a monthly or a bi-monthly or whatever basis? Are you doing that? There's a phrase that says change is inevitable, suffering is an option. I realize that just sharing my survival gear can actually feel like a burden, and I don't mean to lay additional burden on you. I really don't. It might feel more like a to-do list, I think, if you can just think of the suggestions as suggestions, something to be thought of and examined and put into action when you feel ready. So this entire list of things that I've given you is not a mandate. It's a way to kind of filter all of these choices through what you're going through now, what we're going through together. And when you do that, it will begin a process that will inevitably lead to wearing the right survival gear. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. This has been Casting Actors Cast. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.